So, hello ma'am, I am jaylord Bartolazo, and I am here to discuss the topic entitled Strategic Plan for Biodiversity from 2011 to 2020 and the Aichi Targets. So, the Strategic Plan for Biodiversity is a 10-year framework for all action by countries and stakeholders to save biodiversity and enhance its benefits for people. So, ang kining strategic plan is mao ni ang nag-support or ang mga plano or mga implementar sa tanan na countries, not just sa countries, sa mga stakeholders para ma-save or baka support sa biodiversity and also baka ma-enhance ang benefits sa atong mga tao. So, the mission of it is take effective and urgent action to halt loss of biodiversity. So, ang mission niya is magbuhat og mga butang o magpa-implementar og mga things na mas makapadali o mga masakto na way para ma-maintain ang ecosystem na dili mawala ang biodiversity, and also aron ma-assure na ang ecosystem is padayon lang na mag-provide sa to og magpadayon lang na mag-provide sa to mga tao og mga essential or mga important services sa atong mga tao. Then so the vision is living in harmony with nature. So ang vision ani na plan is living in harmony with nature, which is sa year na 2050 is ang biodiversity is valued, dapat kuanan gyud yun na i-value gyud nato, makabalig kita sa values sa biodiversity. Then dapat mapahalagahan nato or ma-conserve, restored or magamit nato sa mas maayo or sakto ang natural resources, which is gikan siya sa ecosystem, na also para na ma-maintain ang ecosystem services, then ma-sustain sa ato ang healthy benefits. So syempre pag natay buhaton na sakto or buhaton na sakto sa ecosystem, sa atong ecosystem, syempre ang mabalik sa ato na is healthy benefits, which is good for all sa atong tanan. So the Aichi targets, no? The Aichi biodiversity. So the Aichi biodiversity targets. So we have a strategic goal A, strategic goal B, strategic goal C, and strategic goal D. So number one is from the strategic goal A is number one is by goal 2020, at the latest people are aware of the values of biodiversity and the steps they can take to conserve and use it sustainably. So by 2020, no, at least ang people, kita ng mga tao is aware ta sa values or values sa biodiversity, no, or kanang mga way na pwede natong buhaton para ma-conserve or protektahan ang biodiversity, atong ecosystem, o magamit sa sakto nato ang mga natural resources or natural benefits or ang atong ecosystem is also aron magamit nato, aron padayon nato na magamit ang mga natural resources o also ma-sustain sa ecosystem atong ato ang mga needs, no? So number 2 is by 2020 at the latest biodiversity values have been integrated into national and local development and poverty reduction strategies and planning processes and are being incorporated into national accounting as appropriate and reporting systems. So number 2 is ang value sa biodiversity is makonek sa local na pag-unlad. So dili lang kita mga tao ang maka benefits, but then tanan no, like syempre all the countries, so kita gid tanan ang maka benefits kung buhaton nato ang sakto ug magamit sab nato sa pagbawas sa kahirapan, no. Magamit nato siya syempre kung buhaton nato like kanang magtanom ta or like magbuhat tag kuan kanang agricultures, di ba? Aquacultures. So isa na sa mga examples para makahatag og trabaho sa atong mga tawo. Syempre, isa na sa mga healthy benefits sa ato nagihatag sa ecosystem. So, number 3 is by 2020, at the latest, incentives including subsidies harmful to biodiversity are eliminated, phased out, or reformed in order to minimize or avoid negative impacts. So, mao na ni ang number 3. Strategic goal number 3 is ang layunin ani niya is everything that is harmful, katong mga butang na harmful sa ecosystem sa atong biodiversity is i-phase out, no? Walaon by 2020. Syempre 2011 to 2020. So walaon yun siya, no? Out, or kung dili man lang mawala, at least man mabawasan, no? To minimize ma-minimize or malikayan nato ang mga negative impacts sa biodiversity. So number 4, by 2020, at the latest, governments, business, and stakeholders at all levels have taken steps to achieve or have implemented plans for sustainable production and consumption and have kept the impacts of use of natural resources well within safe ecological limits. So number 4, strategic goal is ang governments, business, o stakeholders at all levels, no, is magbuhat og way para mo achieve or magpa-implement sila mga plano or mga ways or mga things na pwede nato magamit or pwede nato i-apply sa ato ang daily lives para nato ang mga alon magamit po nato, no, aron magamit ang mga natural resources og sakto, also safe food og ang ecological impacts. So ato katong mga ways na magbuhat tag mga ways, kato magbuhat tag mga butang na makamaayo sa ato, also makamaayo pud sa atong ecosystem, dili siya maghatag og negative impacts sa biodiversity. So number 5 is strategic goal B. By 2020, the rate of loss of all natural habitats, including forests, at least halve, and where feasible, both close to zero, and degradation and fragmentation is significantly reduced. So, by 2020, ang ratings of loss of all natural resources, habitats, including ang forest, is at least mabawasan or visible na makuan into zero rating. So number 6, by 2020, all fish and invertebrate stocks and aquatic plants are managed and harvested sustainably, legally, and applying ecosystem-based approaches so that overfishing is avoided. So number 6, understandable kaayo siya, no? By 2020, sa year 2020, so ginawan ta sa year na 2020, ang mga isda o mga invertebrate stocks o mga aquatic plants is ma-manage og sakto. Dapat will manage, no? Sa year 2020, dapat will manage na. Og also, ang mga isda is harvest legally. Dili ta magbuhat og mga butang katong dili nato i-apply ang mga things na mas makadaot sa to ang marine ecosystem. So aron ma-maintain gyapon nato ang balance sa ecosystem, so maglikay ta sa mga overfishing, katong overfishing kanang sobra nga pagkuha sa mga isda, sobra nga pag-harvest, like kanang patigagmay na mga isda pangwaon, so ato nang likayan. O also dili ta magamit og mga illegal na mga gamit para mga isda like dinamita, dili ta ana. So number 7 is by 2020, areas under agriculture, aquaculture, and forestry are managed sustainably, ensuring conservation, biodiversity. So number 7. So by 2020 is ang under sa agriculture, aquaculture, and forestry is dapat uh, uh, will manage ug also sustainable sila, no? Tanang like kanang sakto silag mga gamit, sakto silag mga knowledge para ma-assure na to ang conservation of biodiversity. So number 8 is by 2020, pollution, including from exist nutrients, has been brought to levels that are not detrimental to ecosystem function and biodiversity. So number 8 is by 2020. So ang strategic goal number 8 is layunin niya na mabawasan or padayon na ma-phase out ang mga pollutions like kanang human activities. Dapat layunin niya na ma-phase out to or mawala. So number 9, by 2020, invasive alien species and pathways are identified and prioritized. Priority species are controlled or eradicated, and measures are in place to manage pathways to prevent their introduction and establishments. Number 9 is katong mga massive alien species o pathways is identified and prioritized. So katong mga priority species is controlled, no? Kontrolado sila or eradicated o hatagan or ibutang sila sa isa ka place to prevent introduction and establishment. So number 10 is by 2015, the multiple anthropogenic pressures on coral reefs and other vulnerable ecosystems impacted by climate change or ocean acidification are minimized so as to maintain their integrity and functioning. So number 10 is by the year 2015, the multiple use anthropogenic pressures sa mga coral reefs o mga uban pang mga vulnerable ecosystems na maapektuhan sa climate change, katong naapektuhan sa climate change or ocean acidification is pagamayon or bawasan aron ma-maintain ang ilang integrity o function. So para ma-maintain ilang functioning, no? Number 11 is by 2020, at least 17% of terrestrial and inland water and 10% of coastal and marine areas, especially areas of particular importance for biodiversity and ecosystem services, are conserved through effectively and equitably managed, ecologically representative and well-connected systems. By 2020, at least 17% sa terrestrial ug inland water o 10% of coastal marine areas, especially katong mga areas na particular ug importante sa biodiversity ug ecosystem services is ma-conserve, no? Ma-conserve through effective or equitably managed. Number 12, by 2020, the extinction of known threatened species has been prevented and their conservation status, particularly of those most in decline, has been improved and sustained. So number 12, by 2020, katong mga extinction sa mga threatened species or endangered species, katong murag nagkahinay og kawala karon na nowadays is ma-prevent og ang ilang pagkawala, no? Og also ma-conserve sila o ma-preserve. Number 13 is by 2020, the genetic diversity of cultivated plants and farmed and domesticated animals of wild relatives, including other economically as well as culturally valuable species, is maintained. So ma-maintain and strategies have been developed. So ang katong mga strategies is ma-develop and implemented for minimizing genetic erosion and safeguarding their genetic diversity. So number 14 is by 2020, ecosystems that provide essential services, including services related to water and contribute to health, livelihoods, and well-being, are restored and safeguarded. So by 2020, provides essential services, including services related to water, no? Dapat dapat natay hinlo na tubig, no? nila na tubig o also para ma-sustain ang ecosystem, safeguarded taking into account the needs of women, indigenous and local communities, and the poor and vulnerable. Number 15 is by 2020, ecosystem resilience and the contribution of biodiversity to carbon stocks has been enhanced. So, ma-enhance ang contribution of biodiversity to carbon stocks. So, ma-enhance through conservation and restoration. So, through conservation and restoration, including restoration at least 15%, man lang, ma-restore ang contribution sa biodiversity to carbon stocks, change mitigation and adaptation, and to combating desertification. Number 16, by 2015, the Nagoya Protocol on Access to Genetic Resources and the fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from their utilization is enforced and operational consistent with national legislation. Number 17 is by 2015, each party has developed, adopted as a policy instrument, and has commenced implementing an effective participatory and updated national biodiversity strategy and action plan. Number 18, by 2020, the traditional knowledge, innovations, and practices participatory and updated national biodiversity strategy and action plan. Number 18, by 2020, the traditional knowledge, innovations, and practices of indigenous and local communities relevant for the conservation and sustainable use for biodiversity and their customary use of biological resources are respected, subject to national legislation and relevant international obligations, and fully integrated and reflected in the implementation of the convention with the full and effective participation of indigenous and local communities at all relevant levels. 19. By year 2020, knowledge, the science-based and technologies relating to biodiversity, its values, functioning, status, and trends, and the consequences of its loss are improved, widely shared, and transferred and applied. By number 20, by 2020, at the latest, the mobilization of financial resources for effectively implementing the strategic plan from year 2011 to 2020 from all resources and in accordance with the consolidated and agreed process in the strategy for resource mobilization should increase unsustainably from the current levels. This target will be subject to change, contingent to resources needs assessments to be developed and reported by parties. So that is all for the strategic plan for biodiversity and the Aichi targets. So nowadays is Corona year is 2023 naman, di ba? So do you think ba na from the year 2011 to 2020 is kaning strategic plan and the Aichi targets is na-applied ba siya sa ato ang biodiversity, no? Agree ba ta nga na-applied siya or nahitabo ba? So maora to